When local growers put great food on Tennessee tables, that's living green. Tonight on Live Green Tennessee, we meet the Barefoot Farmer. Next, we learn about repurposing aging Tennessee barnwood. And finally, we roam the streets of Nashville with bicycle couriers. All this and more coming up next on Live Green Tennessee.
This program is brought to you in part by
Pick Tennessee helps you find local farms and farmers markets, plus offers tips for choosing, using, and storing the fresh foods you buy. The Pick Tennessee mobile app is available now on iTunes and Google Play.
What makes our state unique? Find out on the new Tennessee Channel, a statewide initiative by your public television stations. Each program is created in Tennessee, about Tennessee, and broadcast in Tennessee.
Tennessee Channel, Saturdays 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern and Sundays 2 to 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on your public television station.
Funding for this program is provided in part by the United States Department of Agriculture, providing leadership on food, agriculture, natural resources, and related issues based on sound public policy and efficient management.
Hello, I'm Melinda Kiefer, and I'm proud to bring you stories from across our great state on Live Green Tennessee. Jeff Poppin, also known as the Barefoot Farmer, is the owner and operator of one of the oldest and largest organic farms in Tennessee. Besides farming one of the oldest and largest biodynamic farms in the state, the Barefoot Farmer writes books and articles, consults, appears on Nashville PBS television program The Volunteer Gardener, and organizes conferences on farming and local food. WCTE's Daniel Duarte was able to catch up with the ever-busy Barefoot Farmer.
I've been living up and down this holler for about 40 years and trying to learn how to grow my own food. It just fascinates me how sunshine and air and water and the earth can all combine and create the sustenance that humans need. It just seems so simple, and it's always just seemed to me so easy to just live on the earth and not affect it so negatively the way most lifestyles do. I was very fortunate to have been raised by farmers that chose to use the organic method, so that's what I've been exploring all these years. So what we do on our farm is we have 250 acres altogether, about half of which is forest. This forest is very important to the farm because it supplies the fungal activity in the leaf molds and in the fallen branches, and then there's of course the bird life and the mammal life and the reptiles and the butterflies and insects, and all of this creates a system of transportation that moves this biological activity from the forest out into the fields and of course back again, so that when our plants need something, there's a lot of movement going on. So I rely on the nature's intelligence rather than on the human intelligence, which would say, well, put so much NPK on and this, that, and the other, which tends to make situations where you have to use pesticides and insecticides and things like this, which are really detrimental to a healthy soil ecosystem. So we have these cows which can live on a few acres but make more acreage fertile. And most of the time they're living out on this farm, but in the wintertime we take the hay that we've cut from some of these paddocks, which have grown up in May and September when the grass grows faster than the cows can eat it, and we put it into rolls and bales of hay. So these rolls and bales of hay are then fed out to the cattle in December, January, February, March, and where we feed them, the ground gets worked up and there's some hay and manure and all peed on soil, which when put together make the most excellent soil conditioner and fertilizer, and we call this compost. Now, one of the things that I do is I study the agricultural education and how it changed from before World War I to after World War I. So when we read a textbook on agriculture before World War I, it clearly explains how I farm. Every farm was required to have animals, grow legumes, make hay, do crop rotations, make compost. All these things are clearly explained in any USDA book before this event. A farm like ours has been around in this community for 40 years, and over those years, many of the local gatherings have happened on our farm, and our biggest gathering of the year is on the summer solstice, and we've been doing this for well over 30 years, and it's just a big time. There's about 1,000 people show up in a field, and we get some bands to play. And then we've recently started doing this in the fall for the first day of fall, and have an event, a fall equinox event. But mostly what I like to do is throw conferences on organic gardening and farming. And I really love to have people come to the farm, and we take them around and show them what's going on. I have an internship program where young people come and live on the farm, and many of these have gone on to start their own organic farms and mostly biodynamic. I really feel strongly that the organic local farming can shift a lot of the world's problems in a positive way. We could create a lot of jobs if Nashville, for example, got a larger proportion of its food locally. Middle Tennessee used to feed Nashville, and it will again. We're sort of in a temporary weird zone where we get our food from all these different places, but that's not sustainable, and nobody thinks it is. And the science will indicate that the healthiest diet for you is whatever's growing around you, and to get it from as close as possible to home, and to eat a wide variety of things, and just don't get them from a grocery store or restaurant. You have to find somebody that's growing it, or grow it yourself. You can't trust other corporations with your family's food, and especially the child who's relying on you for their own sustenance. They can't make those decisions. They're putting in their bodies what you put in front of them.
Aging Tennessee barns are given a new life and purpose thanks to the vision of a craftsman and artist. Hes Tennessee PBS Chris Smith talked to Ray Trotta about how he repurposes old barn wood into beautiful pieces of furniture and art.
I'm unbuilding what someone else built. And each one's done a little differently. You know, it's the history of farming and country living. My name is Ray Trotta, and I started the Tennessee Barnwood Company, LLC, in March of 2010. Well, the way I got the idea was a friend of mine lived next door to a barn that had been slowly being dismantled, I guess over maybe 10 years, but wasn't coming down. It was still there. And I had had a few corporate jobs in my history, and I decided that I really wanted to work for myself. I was aware there was some value in the wood. Turns out they had been looking for somebody to remove it for them, and that was the Turner barn in West Knoxville. That was the very first one. It was built around the 1890s, and that started this whole process. I provide the service of removing the barn in exchange for the wood. I dismantle old homes, any kind of old building, but I never know really how it's gonna go until I get into it, because each one's different. So at the time, I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I didn't know where this was gonna go, but I had a feeling, all I had was a feeling that this was something that I wanted to do. And I didn't know how to do it, but I trusted myself enough that I could figure out how to do it. Each one of these structures has a very distinct personality, and I wouldn't say that they're haunted, but there are many, many generations of people whose lives and livelihood depended upon this structure for their existence. And I mean, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, because it was an important part of daily life. Without it, you didn't have a place to put your equipment, you didn't have a place to put your animals or your supplies. It is coming to an arrangement with, an understanding, maybe is a better word, with the building, with the structure. And I always treat it with the utmost respect, kind of like hallowed ground. The safety involves working around the barn first. I mean, I can walk into one, and I'm not a structural engineer, but I would say I'm about as close as you can get to being an expert on barn structures. I do this by myself right now because I needed to learn how to do it, so I wouldn't be hurt. And I didn't need the distraction of another person taking my attention away from what I was doing. And so I work outside the barn first, clearing trees and brush, and usually there's tin and barnwood that's fallen off, and there's always a reason someone wants these down. I'm collecting throughout the entire process. I would say 50% of the time I use the winch that's on the front of my truck, and 50% of the time I use a sledgehammer. I always let gravity work for me, and then you hear it creak, and I mean, it makes a loud, it'll echo in the whole valley. It's loud. But no dynamite, no explosives. If I do it the way that I prefer to do it, the structure will fall on its own footprint. It'll maybe off 5 to 8 feet. I have had a few close calls. The first barn I took down had been added onto a number of times, and it had to be pulled in sections. And I was down to the last section that had 4 6x6 beams. As I went underneath, I was attaching the chain, and somehow the weight shifted, and the roof, the corner just dropped down and hit me right square on top of the head, the hard hat, and didn't hurt a bit, but dropped me to my knees and started sliding forward. It ended up digging in about 2 feet into the ground. Potentially could have crushed me, but it stopped at this piece of limestone. When I started, I knew there was some value in the wood. I wasn't sure where the niche was, but I trusted that I could figure that out. Well, I was walking through an antique mall one day, and I saw a table that had wood that was almost identical to what I was taking down. This was the very first barn. It looked like 4 pieces of wood. It was like a 5x3 dining room table, very simple. And I looked underneath, I looked at how it was put together, and I said, I can do that. And so I embarked on learning how to build tables. And that was all I built. And that was about the first couple of years. The wholesaling of the wood came about with some folks on Long Island who were looking for wood to make frames out of, and they needed a couple thousand board feet. And that gray wood is kind of the gold of this. That's a lot of people love that patina. I never use the word tearing down, I always use the word dismantling. It's going from a structure to places all over the country. What I found is that the people that I sell wood to are much more creative. It goes on to live another life and make people happy.
Rush Bicycle Messengers is Nashville's only bicycle courier service. They can deliver just about anything you need, whether it's court filings, legal documents, product distribution, medical records, bank deposits, mail pickups, and pretty much anything else you can think of. And it's all via bicycle. WCTE's Jacob Card tagged along with the courier while he biked the streets of Nashville.
Yeah, we're Nashville's only truly green courier service, so we only use bicycles, no cars are involved. So we deliver anything from lunch to magazines to coffee beans. We work with a lot of local businesses in doing their distribution, and even just the normal courier stuff where we're doing legal documents, court filings, and things along those lines. I love riding bikes, and it's kind of my passion, and so being able to kind of combine my passion with my job sounded ideal to me. So, you know, being able to ride a bike all day, every day was pretty incredible, the idea of it. So I went for it, and so far it's been great. So we receive a phone call, they let us know exactly what they need, and depending on where my rider is, whoever's closest, so on and so forth, we get that dispatched out to that rider. They can go pick it up and drop it off. We're definitely a lot faster than most of the other delivery places in town too, for the food especially, because first of all, being on bikes, it's incredibly efficient, especially the more dense the city becomes. So we're easily able to get in and out. We don't have to worry about finding a parking spot, things like that. And so pretty simple and fast for customers. You know, Nashville is growing incredibly quick, but one of the reasons that I started the business was that I had seen how the community kind of works together hand in hand, and I love seeing that community connection and keeping that tight-knit connection between the locals, and being able to provide that service for those other smaller businesses to where it's affordable to them, as well as convenient, and so on and so forth, so we can all kind of work together and grow together. And that way we can all kind of thrive by just kind of helping hands and making it happen. The people we deliver to are, again, all across the board. It's business people during the day. You know, we work well into the night as well, so most of those people wind up being the residential type stuff. Hey. When a delivery comes in, you know, it's normally me who's dispatching, but I know where everybody is kind of thing, and so I can just text it to the right person, say, here's the pickup, here's the drop off, this is what it is, this is when it needs to be here, so on and so forth. So, Rush, this is Dave. I'll have somebody there. No problem. Bye. All right. So yeah, as you can see, we do stay pretty busy. So especially once that lunch hour starts to roll in, and then the dinner hour as well, are probably our busiest times. A lot of people think of a bike messenger being this guy that's just a reckless kid that's just plowing through red lights and stuff. And in Nashville, it's definitely a lot different. There's a lot of ways around that to where you can really just learn shortcuts. We can take a lot of different ways that cars can't go, essentially, where you're cutting through alleys, through parking lots, things like that. And then also the not having to find a parking space is a huge time saver for us. You know, we can roll right up to the front door and lock our bike up, and that's like a massive time saver for us. So if you hit a road with a bike lane, you've just got a free stretch all the way down. So it's a lot of things like that that help us as well. Our clients are really surprised a lot of times when we show up. You know, we show up and they're like, we say, hey, we have this package for you, and they're like, oh, already? You're here already? Like, I wasn't expecting you for a while. So they're sometimes a little confused when we show up so quickly, but we definitely get a good response from that. So we try to keep that going, and you know, our goal is to be the fastest courier in town. So. One thing is we do love seeing the infrastructure happen for cyclists and pedestrians, the sidewalks as well, you know, because that just invites more people to ride their bike, makes people feel even more safe. So, you know, every year, it's in the springtime, every year I see more and more bikers come out. And I think that's incredible. You know, it's becoming a true cycling city in a sense. And I think that's an awesome thing. That's another thing that I want to happen with this business, you know, is the more of us that are out there, the more acceptable it becomes. And the more people are aware of cyclists being on the streets. And seeing businessmen, you know, in their three-piece suits, you know, pumping up a hill on a rental bike is awesome, with their briefcase thrown in the basket in the front, you know. I love seeing that. So it's growing tremendously, and I know there's a lot more plans for more infrastructure. So we definitely love seeing that happen, and it also obviously makes our job easier most of the time.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Live Green Tennessee, where we take you all across the state into the farms and businesses of those who are making the move to eating fresh, living sustainably, and helping us all be more organic in our thinking and the way we live our lives as Tennesseans. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Live Green Tennessee.
If you would like more information about Live Green Tennessee, please visit our website at livegreentv.org, where you can find everything from healthy recipes to past episodes and more. This program is brought to you in part by
Pick Tennessee helps you find local farms and farmers markets, plus offers tips for choosing, using, and storing the fresh foods you buy. The Pick Tennessee mobile app is available now on iTunes and Google Play.
What makes our state unique? Find out on the new Tennessee Channel, a statewide initiative by your public television stations. Each program is created in Tennessee, about Tennessee, and broadcast in Tennessee.
The Tennessee Channel, Saturdays 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern and Sundays 2 to 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on your public television station.
Funding for this program was provided in part by the United States Department of Agriculture.